This is TJ with TechmadeEZ. Welcome to the channel. My channel is all about making things affordable, practical, and easy. And obviously what we're talking about today is the purchase of this HP Z8 4G. Now I want to back up for a minute here because this particular computer, when it came out, they usually started almost close to $6,000 with a basic configuration all the way up to $45,000. In fact, I believe LINUS from TechTip had one of these on his show several years ago, and his particular one was set up where it was a $30,000 system. Now, obviously, I didn't buy this system for gaming, and I'm not a gamer. But I wanted to explain that in the past, I have been buying used computers. And once I discovered the professional workstations, and these professional workstations that are done by Lenovo, Dell, and HP are server workstations, and they're meant for heavy loads, video editing, scientific models, so on and so forth. So with my YouTube channel, when it came to creating videos before, I was only creating family videos. With my YouTube channel, I tried to create at least one a week, but I'm using Linux. And so with Linux, I run my video editor in a VM. And so I can't take advantage of GPU rendering. And so I'm relying on CPU rendering only. Now, so I've been very happy. I've had an HP Z440 for years now, and it's one of the most flexible PCs out there. For years they've been running about anywhere between $80 to $120. Now they do cost more than that, but you can get them really basic, and then put in your own CPU. You know, an 18-core CPU for the HP Z440 is about $10. The 20-core one is more expensive. And it's closer, maybe $20, $25, so on and so forth. So, so I was using video editing for that. But I wanted, and it wasn't that because I'm only doing a video once a week, and maybe anywhere from 20 minutes to 45-minute videos, rendering wasn't that bad in the VM. But I thought, it's time for me to upgrade. I want something a little newer. But so I just stepped up. So the models step up from the HP Z440 was the HP Z8, Z4, Z6, so on and so forth. And Z8 is a dual processor. The Z6 is a single processor with the ability to add a module to make it a dual processor, and then you have the Z4, which is just a single processor. And I believe the Z4 doesn't take the same Xeons. It takes the desktop Xeons instead of the server Xeons. So this takes server Xeons. Now, I've always ran about 64 gigs of RAM on my HP Z440. And a lot of reasons why I ran that much RAM, not because I'm a gamer or anything, but I test things in VMs. My video editor is in VM, so I want to give my video editor at least 16 gigs of RAM, so on and so forth. With this new one, I went ahead and configured it with 128 gigs of RAM. When it comes to the HP Z440, they do have the HP Z480, which is a dual processor. You might be wondering, why didn't I buy that instead of going with this HP Z8? The reason why is I wanted something newer, something to run Windows 11. I don't run Windows 11 that much, but I wanted something that was going to be compatible with Windows 11. And on top of that, I thought the performance, I was really looking at a performance hit to give me greater performance. And so, and I was planning on going from 18 cores to 40 cores and 80 threads. The dual processor here, I bought 20-core CPU, 2 of them, put them in here. So let me just talk about how I configured this. It came with just an inexpensive Xeon CPU that I took out. Now, when I looked at these, I noticed that the CPUs had changed. And I should have a sample here, but they're about this size before. These new ones, you know, you've seen them, they're huge, these new Xeons. And so I'm thinking, man, I'm just going to get performance like crazy. So what I did though is I want to break down the pricing of this. The system itself cost me $482, but I had to buy an extra heat sink for the second CPU, so that was another $42. Then you can put up to 4 NVMEs in this particular PC system, but what they do is they have a special section there for their HP dual CPU PCI card that can hold up to 2 NVMEs, but they have 2 of those slots available, so you can hold up to 4 NVMe SSDs with this system. And so, so that cost me $58 for that. And then again, the CPUs were only $56 each, and then I bought the 128 gigs of RAM was only $80. because obviously server RAM, it's much cheaper than regular desktop RAM, and there's so much server RAM on the market, it's so easy to get ECC server RAM really cheap. So I thought, what the heck, I'm going to throw in 128 gigs, not saying I really needed it. And so I just wanted, the whole reason why I was doing this is I wanted more cores for rendering my videos. And also too, I wanted to see how it handled Handbrake. I was running Handbrake off of my server, which it was a Dell dual processor server that I was running Proxmox on. And I don't remember how many cores because I sold that system a while ago and it's on my new app server, Handbrake. But I wanted to see the performance comparisons. So before we go into comparisons and whether I feel like this was the right thing for me to do or not, whether I have buyer's remorse or not, let's first take a look at the system itself, because it's a huge change. The HP Z440 came out in 2013. The Z8 came out in 2014. So there was really only a year difference there. But the HP Z440 had a plethora of CPUs to use with it. So does this one here. So does the Z8. So let's go ahead. Let's just open up the case, take a look at it, and then we'll jump on it and I'll talk about performance, where I was happy or satisfied, whether I was unsatisfied with it. Now, when I say considering this, you would not consider this for a gaming. Now, you can game with this, obviously, but these systems were they were built for heavy workloads, heavy AutoCAD, heavy 8K videoing, scientific models, so on and so forth, AI. I mean, this system with the right video cards in here would be excellent for AI. But let's go ahead, let's open it up and compare it to the old Z440 and see how big of a change it was just from one year to another year. Okay, so as far as sizes goes, it's a little wider. It's definitely a few inches deeper, and they totally changed the cosmetics. There wasn't a huge difference between the Z420 to the Z440. And again, when I'm talking about these, Dell and Lenovo have their competitors as well to this as well that you can get. But I just decided to go ahead and go with the HP. I really do like HPs, and you know that's up to everyone. Has different opinions about that. My Proxmox server was a Dell, so on and so forth. So I'm not totally like HP only, but I do like them. So the difference is, let me just turn this to the side here, and there's plenty of room in this for gaming cards, so on and so forth. It's a great system. My son still games with this. He's a 2K gamer. He loves to game in 2K. My other son, he games in 4K, but we did upgrade him to an AMD gaming system. But let's take a look inside this Z8 for a minute here. What I really like about these professional workstations, and again, they're server workstations, so you can use them as servers or workstations. You can use any computer as a server, to be honest. But the thing I really like about like Dell and HP is that they're all modular. So everything you get is fairly easy, so on and so forth. Now I did want to talk. Now I did look up: is this computer still relevant today? And obviously, when I just talk about the specs that I put into it, obviously it is. But I just want to share a few things here with you. As far as creating media goes, they're talking 8K rendering, audio production. It's certified industry leaders for all the software effects, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve. The Adobe Suite. Engineering, you're talking building information models, advanced 3D CAD design, running complex simulations, visual including. You're talking data analysis. We're looking at complex data sets, AI, deep learning, complex data analysis, and then so on, and gaming, developing, so on and so forth. So it's still a really relevant system today. If you're more on the production side of things, again, you wouldn't buy this for gaming. You can game with it though. But let's just go ahead. I'm going to open this up real quick. These are really convenient. They just pull off like this. And this is what holds the card down in here. At this point, I don't have a GPU in it. I already took it out because I'm using it in another system. And so, but it makes it real easy to get into it. Here's your processors here. As far as RAM goes, it can handle up to 3 terabytes of RAM. And so what I did is I put 64 on each CPU. So I just want to point out, you might be able to see it real well, but right here against the top here are 2 slots. They're PCI 8 slots. So what those slots are really there for is for you to use their HP module for their NVMe PCI card. And so again, it's a dual card, and you can and it's got 2, and that's why you can do up to 4 with the system. So it's very easy, very efficient. It's not very loud. It's not noisy at all. They've got it well dampened. Now, if you are doing some rendering, you'll hear fans, and maybe your video card, you'll hear those fans start to build up. And it does have 2 8-pin adapters here, and it has 2 6-pin adapters for video cards. And you can put up to 3 video cards in here, dual socket video cards. Now, it also depends on how those cards are configured, which cards they are. But obviously, they recommend NVIDIA with this. You can do AMD as well. And when I talk NVIDIA, I'm talking the high professional cards like the 6000 and their newer ones. So it's really convenient. Your hard drives go here. They just slide out. You just put them in. And now I don't use hard drives anymore, so really wasn't using this section here. I did put in a DVD drive, or I should say Blu-ray, because I do rip movies and rip 4K. So that's all in here. So it does have 2 slots for 5.5-inch drives here. It's well ventilated, very well ventilated. So it's a great system. Did it accomplish my needs? Because what I was really looking for is I wanted because I'm not using GPU rendering, I'm using just CPU. I wanted to add more cores to my VM so I could render with more cores. And I was already rendering, I think, because I had an 18 core in there, so that gives me 36 cores altogether, 36 threads. I think I was throwing 24 at my VM, but I wanted to throw 60 at my VM for video rendering. So let's go ahead, let's get on the desktop, and let's talk about my experience with this and whether I'm satisfied or not. Okay, so here we are on my desktop. Now I'm going to include this spec sheet in the links before if you want to research more about these machines. I'm also going to leave a link that's a really good review, YouTube review on this as well, from a dealer that sells these systems. And then I'm going to leave LINUS TechTip, because they did borrow this same PC from HP. It was configured where it was the $30,000 PC when they received it. And they obviously did a whole bunch of rendering on it, so on and so forth. So I'll show that one. It's interesting to watch. But basically, I didn't go through. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about this, and I'll talk about performance and whether I'm satisfied with it or not. And you're going to notice in here at the top that this has 2 USB and then 2 Type-C USBs in the front. It comes configured differently. Mine came with 4 USB 3s, 3.2s really, on the front. No Type-Cs, which I wish it would have come with this Type-C there. But no big deal, I just threw in a Type-C card, because I do access a lot of things through Type-C on my computer. And I just wanted to talk about the inside here as well. One thing I forgot to mention when we were on the side here, so there's a couple of things that I need to mention while before I talk about performance. First of all, it was hard to see, but here's the 2 slots up here on the top here for the PCI NVMe cards. And again, they're dual, so you have up to 4 NVMEs that you can put on here. It didn't come with these cards, so I had to buy the card separately, and I talked about the pricing of that. The other thing is, you'll notice that there is 4 video card slots here. You can put in 3 dual slot video cards in here. They've shown it configured with 3 before, and it's mostly efficient. They mostly recommend NVIDIA with it. You can do AMD with it as well. But so you can throw in 2 or 3 video cards in here. If you're doing AI stuff, whatever, blah blah blah. So I'll include this. I just want to show the back here, because I didn't really show the back. It's got plenty of connectors there. So the real thing is did I have buyer's remorse? Did it perform? And the other thing I forgot to talk about is it does come with different power supplies, 1125 or 1450, and I don't remember which power supply I actually have in this one as well, but you do have that there. Now, if you spend the money, it does have an option for 2 10 gigabit ports. The one I have does not have 10 gigabit ports, and that was disappointing. So, because I run 10 gigabit in my house, and so I had to throw in a 10 gig card, which I do anyway.
running the Z440, I had a 10 gig card in there. So let's talk about the performance. So let's go over here. Here's my video editor. You know, again, I'm not a professional video editor, and I bought Sony Vegas Pro 10 years ago, and I stopped updating it when it was 2018. It's all I need, you know, for video editing. And again, I was just trying to make it so my rendering was more efficient. Not that it had to be, because I'm only doing one video a week. And with Linux, I can sit there and let it render and still work on my desktop. That isn't a big deal. But, you know, I'm just always curious about trying stuff out. So how did it do with video editing? Did it increase my rendering time? Unfortunately, I have to say no. I'm so disappointed. Now, it's not because of the machine. I did not do enough research on the applications that I was using to know whether it could take advantage of 80 cores. And the VM software that I use, and I've tried many because there was no way I could video edit when I first started using Linux without booting into Windows. It was just it was a very choppy experience. But VMware, once I discovered VMware has a 3D accelerator that's better than the other 3D accelerators that are out there. And with that even without the 3D accelerator, it's just more efficient at rendering your screen when you're in a VM. And so I started using VMware. Well, I didn't realize that the desktop version of VMware, and I don't know if this is limitations of the other desktop versions of virtual machines that are out there for the desktop, it limits you to 32 cores. And I was doing 32 cores before. I mentioned I was 24, but I was actually doing 32. So I had an 18-core CPU, so I had 36 threads, so I gave it 32 cores on my other system. But I still thought, well, it's going to still outperform the other one because the CPUs are newer, and they're flipping twice the physical size as the other one. And so I just figured it would be more efficient, faster, whatever. And it rendered a little faster, but not enough to spend $700. So I'm like, holy crap. I just spent all this money not realizing my own limitations of my own software. So I was disappointed, to say the least. Not because of the machine, but because I didn't do my research good enough. But I also did test it with Handbrake, and I thought that it would be faster at Handbrake because I was using Handbrake on my workstation, my Z440. Plus, I was offloading Handbrake also to my server. So I knew the performance pretty well with Handbrake and movies, and so I tested that performance. And yeah, it was faster, but it wasn't that much faster. And it's using 80 cores. So I don't know if it's Handbrake. I don't know what, I don't know. So again, that disappointed me. And don't get me wrong, this system is a technological marvel that HP put out, especially when it was put out in the day that it was put out. I used it for about a year, and then I started looking at it, and I'm going, man, I really need newer stuff for my YouTube channel for testing stuff that I test. I even need a test workstation because I was using an HP Z440 as a test workstation as well, along with my personal one that I was using for my personal desktop. And so I decided, well, I really started following AMD a lot. I didn't want to go with Intel's 13 and 14 gen because they were burning up. And I know they fixed that problem now, but still I'm really leery of Intel. Plus on top of that, I wanted a platform where I could upgrade, have an easy upgrade path. And AMD just gives you a better upgrade path. I just made a video about this, that they have a better upgrade path than Intel. But Intel used to have an okay, when they were doing the X99 platform, man, they were 4 generations with that platform. 4 generations. AMD, AM4 is now going on 10 years with that platform. And they're still making CPUs for that platform. So I was going, you know, I want to see how things perform with a new processor. And I did do a different AMD system. I bought a Ryzen 7 7700X. But then I decided that I really want a more advanced motherboard, and I really want to see how my video performance is with a 9950X. Now the 9950X had been out for maybe a couple of years, so I could get it used, and so I did buy it used for like $450, somewhere in there. But I wanted a more advanced motherboard, and you got to realize when I'm buying these Z440s, you can get them for 80 to 120 bucks, and an 18-core CPU you can get for 10 bucks. 64 gigs of RAM for 30 bucks. The Z440, if you're looking for a cheap system, man, it's just a great system. It doesn't support Windows 11, but you can work around that. And so I just wasn't a person. I just didn't want to spend a ton. I've never liked to spend a lot of money on computers. I'm just enough where I can get my work done and so on and so forth. But being a YouTuber, I started seeing I really need newer hardware for testing stuff. And so I decided to jump ship and go with the AMD 9950X. I gave my other system to my son that games on Linux with that system, and my other son games still on the Z440 and 2K like I talked about, and man, I am just blown away. And just so you know, the performance, my video editing performance is no different with the X9950X than it is with the 7700X. It does rendering a little faster, but as far as performing in the VM, it's no difference. And so I gained probably my rendering time is like 3 times what it was before with the Z440, without rendering with a GPU, just pure core performance rendering, and it plays really smooth. I mean, I'll just play this here. You can see that it's smooth. I'm not playing the volume, but the audio and everything mixes together right. It's a dream. It's a dream. I was really missing out by using older hardware for so long, and part of it is just because the single core performance of newer CPUs today is just so much greater than the older CPUs, and with that single core performance being so high, the megahertz being higher, and then even the multi-core function being more efficient and higher, it just makes it a great desktop experience. Now, don't get me wrong. Someone could take that HP system, they're doing all that 3D modeling and doing a lot of calculations, blah blah blah, whatever, but you want to throw in a couple of cards, great system. So anyway, I'm just really happy with this AMD system. I'm probably going to do a video on it to break down exactly how much it cost me, because here I get about the same, pay about the same for the two systems, and have so much way for what I do, better performance for me. I'm not saying everything would be that way against that HP Z8, because you're working with 80 cores, multi-threads. Now that I've gone to AMD, upgraded to a new system, I actually am upgrading my testing system to a more moderate AMD system, because not everybody has the latest and greatest when it comes to their CPU stuff. So I'm doing a more moderate testing system that has an AMD 7600X on it. And so on and so forth. So, and again, I didn't go with the 3D because I'm not a gamer, and it saved me some money. It saved me definitely some money by not going with the AMD 9950X 3D. And again, I would say if you can find, if something's been out for a year or two and it's still a hot product, if you can go onto eBay, you will save some money by buying it. So anyway, this is my journey. I still like HP. I like the system. It just didn't work out for me for my use case scenario, unfortunately. But I hope this was helpful and enlightening. This is TJ with TechmadeEZ. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.
Now that was easy peasy.